Hello, my fellow broke aristocrats. How are you doing this morning? I decided to shoot a really quick video to tell you some of what I'm up to. I woke up this morning to a text from my friend, who's also the landlord of the house that I rent a room from, letting me know that she was renting the room to her daughter who wants to go back to college. And so basically, sorry buddy, but you're being evicted. So I had a panic attack, and then I calmed down and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm an adult, I will deal with this. I'm a big girl. I just okay, I will just find another place. And I thought about my emergency fund and my decision to continue to feed my emergency fund beyond the $1,000 that's recommended. A lot of people have come out and criticized me because I don't use the Dave Ramsey baby steps. What I did when I paid off my credit card debt was that I continued to put a little bit towards my emergency fund every month, about 10% of my paycheck, while living dramatically below my means. I mean, I rent a room in a house, so I'm living really frugally. I'm living like none of my friends would be willing to live, to be quite honest with you. And I think my friends kind of feel sorry for me, even though I make more money than they do. But so I do know how to be frugal. But so I continued to put money aside in my emergency fund while I was paying off my credit card debt. And now, if worse comes to worse, I have first, last, and deposit for rent in Los Angeles. A little bit about rent in Los Angeles. It's some of the highest rent in the country. A studio apartment runs you about $1,250 to $1,400 a month. That's a studio. And every time the rent goes up, there are more people who are homeless on the streets or really just living paycheck to paycheck. So if there's any place in the world you want to learn about frugal living, it's Los Angeles, California. And so you really have to know how to budget. The problem is that life in LA, everybody is being pressured to present themselves as something that they're not and to spend money that they don't have. And it's really a recipe for disaster. But anyway, so I stopped worrying about what the Kardashians would think and started living really frugally a couple of years back when I first became a broke aristocrat. And the money is there. So I now have an emergency fund that is big enough that, okay, I gotta go. I gotta find a place. I'll probably have to pay more rent. I can handle that because I live on about 70%, 65 to 70% of my income. And then the rest goes into debt reduction and emergency fund and retirement. Those are the three piggies. You know, I have three piggy banks. One is student loan reduction, one is emergency fund, I continue to build it, and the other is my retirement. I'll say a fourth piggy because I also reinvest into my business, my company, so that it can become a better profit earner. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. The point is that I had an emergency, and I had the emergency fund of over $1,000 now, if worse comes to worse. So then I got a text later, about an hour later, from the landlord saying, you know what, the guest house is available. I'll give you the guest house for the same rent that you're paying. Well, the guest house is nicer, and so I got an upgrade for the same rent that I'm paying for the house. So I was like, okay, great, I'll take it. I have a cat, so I didn't really want to move, and my cat is kind of an outdoor cat. She likes the garden area inside this perimeter that we live in. And so it would have been just a complete pain in the butt, but I would have at least had the money to deal with it. Nobody wants to dip into that emergency fund if you don't have to. I guess the takeaway message for me was that it was a good decision for me to continue to build the emergency fund beyond $1,000 while paying off debt, because this is the kind of disaster that can happen. And if it's happening in LA, then you really need to have more than $1,000. But I was okay because I continued to save. Same with if there's a medical emergency or something like that. It's going to cost more than $1,000 and you're going to be deeper in the hole. So I guess what I would leave people with is to ask yourself what your situation is. Do you need to continue to squirrel money aside every month and bypass the baby steps a little bit, or tweak the baby steps a little bit before you start paying off your credit card debt? For me, if I had stopped at $1,000, it would have been a very scary situation. Let's just put it that way. So, okay, I just wanted to put that up, that Murphy called, thank God, the crisis has been averted. But if I had been forced to move, I had the money to deal with it. And it's a great thing about having an emergency fund. But I would encourage people to have an emergency fund that's realistic with today's economy. If you're in a stable home situation, you know you're going to be there for a couple of years, you're not living in a major city where a one-bedroom apartment is $2,400 a month. I mean, I'm not poor, but there's no way with me trying to pay off $300,000 in student loan debt from medical school that I would ever be able to survive out there with $1,000 emergency fund. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'd be curious if people watching can share what they did with their emergency fund, what you did with baby step 1. Did you continue to grow it while doing baby step 2? Or did you just follow the rules? And do you live in a major city? What kind of safety net did you have? And how did it work for you? I'd be curious. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.